Hi Connie, welcome to the Community Living Golf Tournament. Just want to give you an opportunity here to view your swing at regular speed. We'll let that play on through, and we'll put you back in your dress position and take a look at a few things for you. So while we got you back here in your dress position, let's first of all just go ahead and take a look at your setup. Spine is straight, not a slight tilt. Legs come down into a nicely unlocked position. Arms hang down nice and naturally out in front of you. Club works out to the ball. So achieving very nice posture here in association with very good balance. At this point we can go ahead and also take a look at your alignment from this perspective. We can see your feet aiming out to the right here. So you're in a little bit of what's referred to as a closed stance. Theoretically your club face is supposed to run parallel to your feet. Parallel lines on camera would have an appearance of converging. But nonetheless, we are set up down the right edge of the fairway, meeting the right rough. Therefore, we're going to see some form of a compensation in your golf swing that's going to try and get the ball back to yellow. I'm going to go ahead and do a little split screen comparison here between you and Chella Choi. We have some color-coded lines on the screen here, just as a visual reference pertaining to swing plane. We can see with Chella here, she initiates her takeaway, she creates good shoulder rotation, drawing her arms and hands back as well as the club, and we see the club coming back on proper plane directly along the red line. As she continues to move this golf club back, we're going to have to incorporate some good wrist hinge into play, which is going to transition the club head from being below the hands here to now being above the hands. As she continues with her rotation, she's going to work the club from red up to yellow. And when we finally set the club at the top of the backswing, we're going to see the left arm and the golf club on the yellow line. She has full shoulder rotation, and she does this about a very stable right leg with all the weight on the instep of her right foot. With your backswing, see a nice takeaway here from you. Drawing your hands and arms back, shoulders are rotating, looks great. Now, one of the things I am going to talk about, which is going to be difficult maybe for you to see, but we'd like to take a look at your grip, and the reason why I like to take a look at your grip, but we typically look at it from face on, is that your grip is too strong. I think your right hand looks pretty good, but your left hand is too strong, and what that means is your left hand's probably rotated too far over top of the club. And a strong grip doesn't mean from a pressure standpoint, it means from a positioning standpoint, and when you have your left hand rotated too far over top of the club, it's going to close the club face during the golf swing. So right now as you're drawing the golf club back, we can see the club face is staying very closed. As we continue to move the golf club back here, shoulders are working well, club's on a really nice plane. We got to incorporate some good wrist hinge here shortly to transition that club from below to above. So we're lacking a little bit of hinge through this area of the golf swing. Club face is still very closed. We're getting some hinge into play there, which is good. And we also notice that you sort of stand up out of your shot a little bit. So one of the things we want to do in a golf swing, we want to learn to maintain our posture pretty much through the entirety of the swing until we get to the finishing position. So if we look at the top of your backswing right now, measure the angle of your spine, it's about 80 degrees. But when we started, you can see that the angle of your spine was at 59 degrees. So you want to learn how to create this rotation, but maintain the spinal tilt. We don't want to stand up out of the shot, if at all possible. When you get to the top of the backswing, we see the arms compress a little bit, and that's due to the fact that you haven't maximized wrist hinge. Wrist hinge is very important from a couple of standpoints. One, creates a lot of power for you in the golf swing. So think about throwing a ball. If we were to try to throw a ball with no wrist hinge, it'd be like shot putting the ball, and the ball wouldn't go very far. If we create that wrist hinge, then we can snap it on the way through. Same principle sort of applies here. Wrist hinge also creates club travel. So what's happening in your backswing is your backswing is getting a little bit abbreviated. Your arms are getting back to really their completed position, but the club hasn't traveled as far as you'd like it to because you haven't maximized the wrist hinge. So your arms start to compress and break down a little bit and overswing. As we create our transition back into the golf shot, we simply want to move our weight from our right foot to our left foot. fire our knees and our hips to the target, unwind our core and fire our hands. And in doing so, we need to make sure we're bringing the golf club from yellow back down on top of red. And that's exactly what we see here with Chela Choi. The golf club is returned back to plane. The other thing we want to point out at this stage of the golf swing is the relationship between the lead forearm and the golf club. I refer to this as the backwards check mark. Simply means that the club head right now is remaining above and behind her hands. She's retaining angle, and this is what's going to allow us to create a lot of power in the golf swing, let alone getting it to return back to plane. With your descending motion into the ball, hands and arms are dropping really nicely, feet and knees are working. So a really nice transition back into the ball. You're also diving back down, regaining your posture a little bit. And at this stage of the golf swing, you can basically look at your lead forearm and your club and pretty much say that you have your backwards check mark. So creating power in your golf swing is not going to be that much of an issue because you are retaining angle. At this point in time, the club hasn't fully returned back to plane, so you are coming into the ball just a little bit more steep than we see with Chela Choi. And we'll get a better sense of that as we continue to come into the golf ball and take a look at what that club head does relative to the red line. If we track Chela's club coming into the ball, we can see her club comes into the ball directly from the red line, or actually just slightly below it. So at this point in time, she's going to be able to hit a very straight golf shot in accordance to her alignment, assuming that her grip is good via having a good grip which squares that face up. With you, if we track your club head coming into the ball here, club descends, almost gets back on the plane there. So pretty good descending move here. If we connect the dots, you're just a little bit more on top of the plane than what we see with Chela Choi. So your club may move just a hair from out to in, and again, that's a compensation to help you pull the ball back to the center of the fairway. Because once again, we had shown you at address that your feet were aiming out to the right. Club face is in this direction. You're set up to hit the target over here, but ideally, we're trying to get the ball over here. Because you're pretty much on plane, very likely that ball wants to start out somewhere towards where you're aimed, and then you're going to have to impart right to left spin on the ball and hook the ball back towards your target. And that's where your strong grip comes in. So if you remember, I mentioned that a strong grip produces a closed club face. So as you're coming in here, club is starting to release, de-loft, you're turning it over. We can see the ball not heading out towards where you're aimed fully, sort of in between yellow and red. That ball's going to have right to left spin, and it's going to be able to hook back or draw back towards the target. One of the problems with the strong grip, not only does it close the club face, but it de-lofts the face, and unfortunately we don't get a lot of launch angle or trajectory off of the driver. As you drive through, moving through to a pretty good finish here, what you want to do with your right foot though, just pay attention to Chela Choi on the left side of the screen. Her right heel's off the ground at point of impact. She carries this energy through, and in order to finish the golf swing, she's just going to come up off the heel onto the toe of her right foot. And that's going to allow her to displace all her weight on her left side. Hips are going to square around, shoulders are going to fully rotate. She gets into a nice finish. But she simply comes off the heel up on the toe. With you, you're coming up on your toe, but then you actually take a physical step. So you don't want to do that. You want to learn to create the proper footwork so that the toe gets up on the ground. We count all the spikes in the shoe, all the weight's on the left side. We post up on a nice tall left leg. Hips are square to the target. Notice we're maintaining that spinal tilt through the golf shot. Shoulders are fully rotated, hands are high, clubs back in behind us. So you like to just refine this finishing position a little bit with your footwork so that we're not losing our balance. Little recap. Golf swing looks really, really good. Hands are working well. They come back, they fire through. Your core's working well. You coil back, uncoil through. Need a little bit better footwork through to the finish so we can swing into a balanced finish. Ideally, we'd like to improve our alignment and fix our grip, and then just continue to swing the golf club on the descending plane that you have, which will actually not come slightly from out to in once you improve that aim, because there'll be no reason to compensate and try and hit the ball left. So the three most important things we need to be consistent and hit the ball straight is we have to aim well, we have to bring the club down on proper plane, and we have to square the face up. Unfortunately, right now you're aiming too far right. You're trying to compensate with the club face by over-releasing the club to try and pull hook the ball, and the club is coming ever so slightly from the outside. So if you improve your alignment, your downswing plane will become perfect. We fix up that grip. You'll be able to add trajectory to your golf shot. You'll hit it higher and further, but you'll also be a lot more consistent because the alignment will be good, descending plane will be perfect, and your grip will be just squaring the club face up as opposed to closing it. Okay? Anyways, at any point in time you ever want to work on your golf game, I'm over at Glen Abbey in Oakville. Be happy to help you out. Also, if you're involved with any golf tournaments or sit on the committee for any events and looking for a unique gift to provide to your guests, certainly feel free to reach out. Anyways, I hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoyed getting an opportunity to see your swing on video, and hope you have a great summer.